Hey, folks, welcome to the View podcast, episode 2 of the audio/video one as well. Joined by some fantastic people tonight, some Leeds United YouTube alumni, I would say. We've got Max and Joe down the bottom, and Lockie to my left, your left, my right, your right. Whichever way you're looking at this, there's Lockie, all kitted out in his new gear. Lockie, how's things?
Good, yeah, good. Good day, quiet one today. Not much
Yeah.
to do, to be honest. Yeah, been
No
watching
uni
Joe
anymore,
getting
so.
smoked on FIFA. So
Yeah.
Joe, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. It's glad to finally be asked to come on this channel. To be honest, so no, I'm doing good, mate. I mean, I'm getting frustrated with the 49ers and Leeds, but outside of that, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a bit of that going around at the moment. I think we're all in the same boat. Max, reasonable hour of the evening. How are you doing?
Yeah, very similar, to be fair. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing Leeds play a little bit more in some pre-season friendlies and stuff. But the main thing is I just want to see some signings come in the door, not only because it's nice to see your club sign players and we need to, but because I need to make some bloody videos.
Yeah. I said last week and the week before on my Friday video, big week next week, lots of stuff's gonna happen. And then I got to this week, I'm like, nothing's happening. It's 2 weeks of nothing happening. So at some point, the floodgates are gonna open because they have to. So I'm hopeful.
I'm banking on a very, very busy deadline day in terms of incomings and outgoings. So
don't go to bed just yet.
Yeah, put an holiday in, Max, and you can just sit at your laptop waiting for the transfers in and out, mate.
Max will be knocking out tactics videos along with Lockie at 12 o'clock at night, trying to get them out for the next morning.
I did that for the Gakpo. That was a fun day. Jeez.
I was talking about that yesterday with somebody about how close we were to signing Cody Gakpo. They're like, where are you? Told them the story, and you're like, that didn't happen, did it? I was like, no, it did. But that's like a normal Tuesday in Leeds. So,
yeah,
Tonight we're going to talk a bit about the Manchester United friendly game that happened, not in too much detail because it's been covered probably to death at this stage by most people. And we'll go through some of the incoming and outcoming transfer stuff that's gone on. What we have heard, there's a fly in my room. I'm going to have to kill him at some point. Pablo has retired today, so just again we'll talk about that briefly, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about whatever else is going on around the place. So we'll start off with the Manchester United match, and Leeds travelled over to Oslo with a very, very threadbare looking side, which I kind of feel sorry for Daniel Farke at the moment. Just, did you ever see that GIF or the meme of Quentin Tarantino just kind of standing around his house looking at different things when he's nothing to do? Kind of feel like Daniel Farke is doing that up at Thorpe Arch, which is like 6 players running around him. That's just him on a park on his own. So it'd be nice to get some bodies in. Lockie, positives, negatives from that game. What did you think?
Negative was you couldn't watch the first 10 minutes because LUTV was showing one angle. But yeah, no.
Authentic, that's the experience you get when you're in the ground.
Brilliant.
People paid 80 quid for that.
Like that as well. That was the exact sales process of this is what you would be seeing if you were here. I was like, well, that would be sitting in that seat.
I think that was just Bryn Law and Tony DeRigo trying to cover for them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were very much, this isn't our footage. We can't do anything about this.
Every 5 seconds they would say that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want my money back. But yeah, anyway, after that, it was fine. In terms of the game, yeah, it's first game of pre-season as well. It's not just pre-season, it's the first game to expect. I think fluid passing the first game of the season for any side's a bit ridiculous. Like you saw in that first half, especially Man United had a fairly strong side, actually, and I thought some players fared quite well against them. Mason Mount was playing, Sancho was playing. Second half was, with more of the senior players in there, you'd have thought it'd been a better game, but we weren't as good. So what does that say about either the young players performing well or the other players not performing so well? Yeah, it was an interesting game.
Yeah. Joe, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, much like Lockie in terms of disappointment. I thought in that second half when the cavalry came on, in a sense, in terms of experienced players, we would win the game. But it was a real indictment of the state of the squad right now, and any confidence that I had. And I know it's only one game, and I know it's reactionary. I get it, right? But I'm slowly losing confidence, and I was arguing with Leicester fans and Southampton fans, and now I'm like, wow, I need to stay in our lane. They're streets ahead of us, and yeah, look, some bright spots. I really like Lewis Bate. I really like Rutter. If we can keep Aldercini, that's pretty quiet on him. Especially when you consider similar agent to Somerville, but Somerville's twerking left, right, and centre. But there's no real news on Cine, which is a positive. But yeah, we need a striker. We need 2 left backs. We need centre backs. I mean, yeah, the squad is in dire straits, and I think that's the worry for me, because even those that are on international duty, the ones that they're going to leave anyway. I think Somerville leaves. I think Nonto leaves. I think Adams leaves. I think, Rodrigo's already gone. So, yeah, it's worrying, pal.
Any positives, Joe, from the younger players that did play in that game? Did you see enough from, you mentioned Bate, did you see enough from those kind of players to think they could have a part to play next season?
Yeah, for sure. I think the early rhetoric was that Bate was going to be sent out on loan. I don't want that to happen now. Again, I know it's only one performance, but I've heard a lot of people say how well he did at Oxford. And, it's just seeing him. There was one moment where the ball was fizzed in at him, so much pace. He had a midfielder on his back and he just knocked it round the door. And we've spoken about it before, and those that know the game much more than me is like he knew where it was going before it even came to him, and it's that scanning, someone said. I remember someone saying that Enzo Fernandez had Xavi scan. And ever since I've heard that, I'm like, Lewis Bates got that Xavi scan about him. He just knows where he is on the pitch. Nah, you know what I mean? I know I'm being a bit daft, but yeah.
I was watching the game back yesterday as well. I was going to say, sorry. And I was watching him and he just moves everywhere. He doesn't stop. No matter where he is on the pitch, he'll be asking for that ball. And other players weren't doing as much as him. He did it more than anyone else on the pitch. And that, from a young man, is really impressive. Shows a lot of confidence as well.
Yeah. There's a mature head there, definitely. Carl Robinson said it last year when he was at Oxford. It's not a case of if he becomes a Premier League midfielder, it's when. That's the thing. And I think we've seen a bit of glimpses of that as well. He's very tidy on the ball. And the thing I've been saying for an awful long time about Sam Greenwood is technically a very good player, but needs to move more, needs to be more active on the pitch. You look at Lewis Bate, he has that down. And the scanning as well. I'm glad Joe picked Xavi and not the one I was picking, which was Frank Lampard, who was notorious for his ability to scan a pitch and pick out passes. But he's got that as well, and he did come through that part of the world. So maybe he's picked up a couple of tricks along the way. Really good player for me, and I'd like to see him stay at Leeds next season. Max, in terms of the game itself, do you feel positive coming out of that game, seeing enough? Are you worried about it now?
As much as a lot of people on Twitter have been, there's been 2 sides, hasn't there? There's a lot of people, as there always is, there's a lot of people saying, oh, this is terrible, this is the worst thing in the world, or whatever. There's the other half's going, it's only a pre-season friendly, it's the first one. So I'm kind of in the middle of that. I think, yes, it's only a pre-season friendly. It's the worst one. It's the first one. We went with a bare bones squad. But I do think there are things that can be taken out of watching your team play football, no matter what it is. The game itself was a little bit weird because I think if our first half team had played in the second half, we would have won about 3 or 4-0. But because of the way it worked out, their good players were on in the first half when our good players were on. And so we sort of counteracted each other and nothing really happened. And then the second half, we brought on some experience, but they weren't good players. They didn't do well, even though they are experienced. I think the thing I learned, and I tweeted this out, was that I think Luke Ayling truly is finished now at Leeds United and at this level, even in the Championship, because he simply is not a good defender. And to play right back in the Championship and expect to get promoted again, he's not good enough because he doesn't. We're talking about scanning. He does never checks his shoulder, and it's like stuff you'd be expecting a young academy right back to come on and make those mistakes. They're just the way that people are getting in behind him, the way that he looks, and you can see him almost like jump, thinking, "Oh God, there was someone there," and then he panics and has to run towards them and try and close things down. It's like, and then you get Cooper. There was a moment where he got the ball. He passed it straight to a Man United player. He recovered, won the ball back, passed it straight back to another Man United player again. And it's like you're looking a lot worse than what the under-21s players are looking at. Looking like. But for me, yeah. So all I learned really was that the fullback, Luke Ayling and Liam Cooper and Strauch as well, actually, you forget that he's only 22, but he's not good enough because he just makes too many mistakes. His first touch is heavy. He'll give the ball away. He's in the wrong position. He doesn't check his shoulder. He's just not quite good enough. And I think because he's had first team minutes, he now thinks he's a first team player. So it's not like we can send him back down to the under 21s and have him there for a season. If we don't play him, he'll want to leave. And then the only other thing is that Rutter and Sinisterra, I think, are going to be really promising as a link up if we can keep Sinisterra as well, which is a big if. But I was impressed with the way that they were able to link up.
I was just quickly going to say on Strauch as well. We're seeing what's happening. The incredible interview with Dele Alli. I don't know if you guys have all seen that. But
yeah, I've seen
honestly,
it. Yeah.
wow, the things, it's incredible, isn't it? Like, they are people. But everyone forgets that, don't they? But I'm not saying to that extent, but in terms of self-confidence and where he is in his head, he doesn't feel like the person he was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The man behind the footballer. I hope everything's all right with him, but he just doesn't look, he never looks like confident.
Happy about playing.
Yeah, happy, confident, like he wants to be there. And there's a lot of issues with Strauch, I think. I think it's more than form. Where's that come from? When did that start? And when will that come back? Because I remember when we went up and the first season in the Premier League, when he was fit, it was brilliant. And we were all talking about him. He got preliminary squad, didn't he, for the World Cup?
Holland looked at it, bringing him in. Yeah, he trained, didn't he? Yeah.
It's just gone downhill. And yeah, it's really sad to see, to be honest, because he was a brilliant player. I just hope he can find it, whether that's with us or someone else, I don't know. But for him as a person, I hope he can find his form again.
Joe, you want to say something there?
Yeah, the more I just have complete apathy for them. Like you said, I hear you talking about Strauch, and yeah, once upon a time I did feel like that, but now I couldn't care less. Like, I get we're all reacting like, oh, they all want to leave, but it was only like after the game that we were chatting and we were saying, yeah, I think he needs to move on. It's just because we're not bringing anyone in. It's like, what, they all want to leave? Like, yeah, they all. It's like rats leaving a sinking ship at the minute. And I think there's going to be more. I know some of us might, but none of us wanted Rasmus. But let's not forget, he's talking about, I'm here for the fight. Voba the same. And then, maybe Voba even is twerking elsewhere now as well. So we'll
every time someone's linked or somebody wants out of the club, you always call it twerking.
They are though, bro. They're like, come and get me.
Laugh. Yeah,
they come in to get me though. It's like I'm here for you. Come and get me. I'm too good for the championship kind of vibe. When go on, Joe.
Do we think?
Sorry,
No, you're fine. I wanted to hear what you say. I saw a Vober thing today, and a lot of people reacting to a tweet from a guy who isn't any kind of a source on anything, and people have reacted to this. Is that him walking out the door kind of thing in the tweet? It's like, I don't think it is. I think it's more he's walking into the building rather than walking out of the building. And from, again, we talked about the marketing that Leeds have been doing on the kits and stuff and who they've been showcasing in the social media stuff. And it seems to only be the people that are going to build around this year, the people that have been excellent, haven't been videoed or filmed, bar Christensen for a little bit. But they pretty prominently pictured Max Vober in kit, sitting down. And that to me, and what we had been said before was he was going nowhere. So that kind of made me feel like that's okay. That's fine. Maybe his injury history has kind of made people have a look. He's only at Leeds 6 months. We'll give him a bit more time. But I think it's important that Leeds try and hang on to some people, because if it is a difficulty getting in the kind of players that we're trying to get in, hanging on to the ones we have is going to be super important to try and put a squad together. Because again, the noise coming out of Ellen Road, what little bit is coming out of Ellen Road was an aggressive wage budget and an aggressive transfer budget to get out of it. We've yet to see it. Which brings us on to the next topic pretty well. Yesterday, we saw Josh McDonald come in for the academy from Hamilton Academicals. Never an easy name to say.
That's the one.
Thanks, Max. So he's come in and he's looking to link up with the under 18 squad. And very highly rated Louis Perry's come in. I think somebody said that. I don't know if it was Graham Smith or if it was Adam Pope or somebody said it, but it might not be a big name now, but this kid could be a big name in the future. 51 goals last season in all competitions. And my thinking on this is Josh McDonald's mother tweeted, "Great that we can finally make this official," because 2 weeks ago it was rumored to be done and dusted, as was Perry, but nothing happened in 2 weeks. And I'm wondering now, has something changed behind the scenes? We've now seen Russell Westbrook come out and announce himself as an investor in the 49ers group from the LA Clippers.
Should be another one for 49. Another one for the EFL to go through and do the checks on.
I don't think I don't think they have to check them though, because they're in the minority. They're in the minority bracket, so they don't have to. They're just investors.
because they're not investing on their own behalf, they're actually investing into a pot that's of like the minority investors. I think everybody who's investing in that pot needs to be checked, and that's why it's taking so long. Is that not the case?
I don't think so. I think it's only the senior people that make decisions, that have decision-making abilities, are actually involved in this. But
I think they said about 11, Joe. I think there's about 11 towards the top end.
It should be said that the Birmingham takeover that was announced yesterday by them officially was apparently ratified back and was approved in terms in June, the start of June, by
like a month
the
before,
EFL.
But
So that's 2 months, a month and a half it took to get ratified. So that could be, we're approaching a month and a half ourselves now. So maybe it's close. But the reason I brought that up is you have that comment from Josh McDonald's mother saying, finally we can announce it. So maybe something changed. Jordan Spieth slipped up in an interview, I think, and he said, it's all done and dusted. Everything's fine. You're like, I hope so. I wonder, is it? But this happened just before we made the initial announcement that there was an agreement between Rads and the 49ers. All of a sudden, JP McDonald popped up, Lance Jr., Larry Nance Jr. popped up just before it was announced. And now this seems to be happening again this week. And now there's a bit of movement in the transfer market in terms of incomings, because Louis Perry will go into the under 21 squad. So he is technically a senior signing because he will go into the under 21 team. Do you think that this stuff is, let's start with you, Joe, on this one. Do you think that there's something's changed in the background now and things are starting to move and maybe we'll see some stuff coming in?
I do hope so, mate, because it's got to happen quick, Joe. The thing is, I get, at first I was like, oh, this is how businesses run, moving in silence. Now I'm sick of it. Like, I need to know something, and I say I have no right to know. I feel like I do. I'm a fan of this football club, so I think some sort of communication would be great. Like, the fact is, even though it's not been officially ratified, we genuinely have not heard a word out of Pragma Raf's mouth, not a jot. We should have had something. So it's really frustrating. I hope things are happening because, as I say, I think there's like 22 days now between the season start, and I'm just looking at other rivals and getting pretty envious. And it's not even the case of like the main rivals who you expect to be challenging. We're even seeing deals being done at the lower end of the championship. So it's like, what are we waiting for?
It's like panic inducing, isn't it? Watching
of course it is.
Other clubs sign players and we're just like sat there in limbo.
And then losing all the players, Max. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
then we're hearing links of saying so-and-so's had a change. This one wants gone, that one wants gone. I just want to be able to say to them, get out so we can just go then. Do you know what I mean? I know it's not as easy as that, but it's just making me angry.
And I think that's what Fark's annoyed about. And, talking about his interview, he said, it's too early to know yet. And he's annoyed. He wants to know these players. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I think I'm going to go on a limb here. I think one that he said he won't stay is Jorginho Rutter. And I think they've had that conversation. He said, I will be your man next year. And that's why, he's doing all these interviews. He seems happy. The others, it's all a bit quiet. And I don't like it. And I imagine what Fark feels like. I imagine, all these players suddenly being like, I'm all right. Yeah. It's like, well, you didn't say that a few weeks ago. Yeah. So, and I think when you're bringing players in, I know I don't agree with this, but in terms of recruitment and having a squad, you need to know what your squad is before you bring them in, right? Realistically, to identify targets. We need 11 new players, right? But what are the main ones, for example? Like if we lost, I don't know, all our centre-backs now, right? Yeah. We need some centre-backs. Yeah. Where then the striker might be second on the list, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like, what do we need and who do we need first? So it's taking too long.
That's the worry, Joe. Like, and just to jump on what Lockie said, like, imagine Luton said, you know what, we will take Drama, and they put up money for him and he leaves, right? Let's say that happens. We're hearing Strout's going to leave, but then there's also little musings about Voba. So then what happens at left centre back? We know we're already like at right centre back, and we don't have any left backs. Yeah. So we could, be a week before the season starts and people go, I've had enough. I don't fancy it. And then what? Like, we've got no defence.
To upset you a little, well, not just won't upset you. It's been officially confirmed now on Roma's Twitter account that Rasmus Christensen has joined on loan for the season.
Yeah, about 5 minutes before we started, it was on Leeds' as well, I think.
Yeah, so he's gone. The one thing that I'm leaning back to that's kind of keeping me a little bit sane, but I'm notoriously positive at this point of the year, every year. I get gradually more negative as the season goes on. But There was stuff that was said, and I think it was Phil Hay that said it, about there is a financial fair play thing that Leeds need to be very careful with, and they are watching this very, very carefully. They didn't go into much detail about it, but they said there is a strong FFP position that Leeds need to make sure that they're within.
It's called profit and sustainability in the FL, isn't it? Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? But it's slightly different name.
Yeah,
for
probably.
So
probably
do you
15
reckon
more
that will
specific
come
Leeds.
from potential like unpaid fees that have not gone through yet?
I think they look at all of that. I think they'll be looking into it. But again, Leeds haven't been in the championship for 3 years, so I don't know if the championship. I know the EFL punishments for breaking profit and sustainability don't carry into the Premier League, because there was one about Villa smashing it when they were in the championship, and then when the EFL pretty much approached us, we'll wait till they come back, and then we'll penalise them. So they can't until they go back. So once you get out of it, you're out of it. So I wonder, is there, are Leeds trying to just navigate maybe historical stuff? Maybe there's still a bit of a gap there, but that makes me think that they need to get people off the wage bill first, the big earners off the wage bill, which maybe a lot of these loans outside of the clauses might actually do us a favour in one sense. Rodrigo being the big one, 100 grand goes off the wage bill. That might free up a huge amount of space then for somebody to come in and play in that position, or one or two players even to come in the championship level. But that's what I'm kind of hanging on to, thinking maybe there's something there. But like you said before we came on, you said something about Graham Smith had said on the Yorkshire Evening Post.
Yeah, and the podcast he just did. Yeah, they were kind of like joking around, saying like, should we say some more things and stuff like that. So they obviously know things, and they also mentioned there's so much things the club. They go to the club to speak to someone, the communicator there, and then the club will say, no, don't mention this. And then they made a joke, and they should we should just reveal it all right at the end of the podcast so people stay till the end. So I think there is noises. I just don't think it's maybe it's advanced. I don't know, but maybe not as the 49ers don't want it announced until it's official that is a target that will come. But I do believe, and he said here on his finger, I've got it up. He said Leeds would say that beneath the surface, it's all systems go. Like work being done on a number of deals. But
they're going to say that though.
Yeah.
This is why I was.
But that's what the club's feeding him, and that's only.
This is what I was thinking though. I know it's a bit tinfoil hat time, but I was talking to my mate and I was saying it really wouldn't surprise me if we've got quite a few deals lined up. It's just that we can't pull the trigger until the EFL take over, the EFL approve it. And I also think that could be to do with some of the frustrations coming from Farker as well in his interview, where he sounds like that. It could be that they've got players that he really wants to get in the door and put in these training sessions and start getting them into the team, but he just can't because they are not able to announce it yet. And what I think is as well that somebody like, let's say for Ryan Manning, for example, that could have been something where Leeds had got almost like a verbal agreement with him that he might join. But what it does, this not having this approved yet by the EFL, it puts us in such a vulnerable position, because if we do have verbal agreements with players and almost like, you will be coming to us, we just need to get the takeover approved. If anybody catches wind of that, it's so easy for them to just come in and hijack the deal, because Leeds have got their hands tied behind the back and they can't announce the player or sign the player because they haven't got the ownership technically yet. So I feel like we do have, and that's probably what you're saying, Lockie, as well, about them saying that it's all systems go and stuff. I think they must have stuff agreed with players, if only verbally, but there's nothing they can do until the takeover goes through.
I disagree massively.
I think we're going to say the same thing.
I think
we can bring players in. I think.
Yeah,
we already have,
because we already have. We brought in 2 youngsters. We've got a new manager. We've acquired a goalkeeping coach from Norwich, which will have involved communication with Norwich and probably a compensation package. We've brought in Daniel Farker. We've brought in staff members. They can make it happen.
What I would say though about these ones that have come in, yes, there's wages there which would go into the wage bill, but there hasn't been fees for any of these.
What the other lad was 200k.
200k for Perry, yeah.
But we also have had a payment of, what was it, 495k from the World Cup for having our players feature, which does write off the signing of those youngsters.
But Max, I think there could be some truth in both sides, if I'm being honest, because I think there could be a case of Leeds have an operating pot of money and that's where that World Cup money goes into. That's your current account, for lack of a better term, and that money is coming in on a regular
Yeah.
basis. And then you have the other one, which is the outlay of big fees that are needed to be ratified by Radrazani, because right now he is still the owner of the club technically, so he has to sign off on all of this.
That's what
stuff
I was thinking.
before
It's the big fees that we can't do at the moment because
the upfront big payments.
Yeah.
And there'd be
Joe,
no
you said-
benefit, would they, from the 49ers not wanting to bring players in? Like, they want to
Yeah,
go back to the
but-
Premier League.
Yeah,
So there's
there
got to
is
be something that's not allowing it to happen as quickly as possible, surely.
Joe, I think it was you, Joe, that actually said this, and it possibly was last week. That's the case. If you look at the announcements that have happened in Leeds, they've happened in a lot of things have been said in a very short amount of time, and then there's nothing for a while, and there's a flurry of activity, and then there's nothing for a while. And again, I think it might have been you, Joe, that said this, that maybe it's a case that they just, because Rads is off in Italy looking after Sampdoria now, he's not here anymore. So maybe it's a case of they're sending him all this stuff going, you need to sign these things, you need to sign off these things. And then maybe one day a week he sits down with a pen and goes, right, and starts signing stuff. And then we start to get these little drip feeds of announcements. But as it stands, he doesn't have to sign off on anything right now. He can sit on his hands and do whatever he wants. And given the level of abuse that we've all given to him when he left, if you were him, would you be in a rush to help the club? I don't think I would be. Like, he's going to make his money whenever this is ratified, regardless.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because
So I don't
he's
know.
still the owner, isn't he? He owns the club still until his thing, so it goes through him. Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah. In terms of
it's the lack of information which is annoying us all, isn't it? We don't know. That's what's
the thing.
frustrating.
Everyone keeps saying that I speak about the 49ers. They keep saying you'll get used to this. They announce things when it's done. Because if you look at Ed Wooten as an example, they announced him as the new goalkeeping coach on Tuesday morning when the team flew out to Oslo. So you would assume he's only just been appointed. He's just literally met them in the airport. But yet the photographs they put out of him were in full training kit, gloves on, in Leeds kit, on
the
a pitch.
training pitch, yeah.
So he'd been there for a couple of days before they even announced it. So again, I'm wondering, are there people there? We haven't seen the ton of social pictures that we normally get from preseason. We haven't seen them coming back. We haven't seen what's going on in Thorpe Arch. Maybe there's people there. Maybe, as you said, Lucky, there's agreements in place. Maybe people are training there. They just, look, we can't sign the name on the bottom, but everything else is done and agreed. And I don't know if there's a small holding fee, like we'll pay you a small amount of money just to keep you with us. And then when we can announce it, we'll announce it. Like, I don't know if it's something like that. And I am stretching to try and find a connect in there. But it's, in terms of the exits that have gone out, we've confirmed a few. Robin Koch has gone to Frankfurt on a season-long loan. But I think we got 150k or something like that for him. Not a huge amount of money as a loan fee. That'll bring him to the end of his contract. Mark Rocket looks like it's done and dusted to Betis. It's a loan with a option to buy for €12 million, which is 10.3 million pounds, which would be 300,000 profit for Leeds should they get that. I'm slightly more confident than I have been with other ones that will get that, because Betis did try to sign him last season and think they'll want to sign him. Christensen now gone to Roma on a loan. Llorente's at Roma on loan. Aronson gone to Union Berlin, straight loan. And Rodrigo yesterday confirmed to Al Rayyan for £3 million as a permanent deal. I'm going to just say this. Outside of Rodrigo, are we sad to see any of them go? Joe?
No.
Max?
No.
Just for me, I think Rock as a system player who didn't suit the system we played. I think he's a talented footballer.
I think he's going to be midfielder, but again, the frantic nature of how Leeds played in the preseason that they had last season didn't suit him at all. And then when you get to the second half of the season, and this was Stroke falls into this bracket for me, when it gets to the second half of the season, the pressure came on. I think certain players just didn't necessarily deal with it particularly well. Of the incomings, so the two young lads have come in. We're linked with Alexander Nubal, who's a goalkeeper at Bayern Munich, although there's question marks whether he's going to go to Stuttgart. Probably is. By the time you've watched or listened to this, probably already gone to Stuttgart. The rumor is that has to be done by Monday, because Stuttgart's training camp starts on Monday and they want him in, but they want him on loan. Leeds want him on a permanent, apparently. And then the late breaking one today, Paddy McNair to Leeds United from Middlesbrough. Max, you excited about these ones?
Not particularly. No, it's not setting the world on fire, is it? Really, it's not anything that. It's not ambition, is the thing, isn't it? New Bell would be, but like you say, I don't think there's much in that. I think Leeds are probably interested, but we want him on a permanent. They want him on a loan. He's German. He probably prefer to stay in Germany. Yeah. He's been away, hasn't he, in France for a year, so he probably wants to go back home for a bit. I would if I was, do you know what I mean? If I was away from home for a year, it's kind of a no-brainer for him to choose Stuttgart, really. So other than that, Paddy McNair, no, that doesn't excite me at all. It's especially when we've been told all this aggressive budget, aggressive transfer strategy, all that sort of stuff, and then it's like Paddy McNair, and it's like, well,
Joe, you had a few things to say about Paddy McNair before we came on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, mate. We need bodies. He's experienced at this level. He's played a hell of a lot of football, I believe, at this level. Having been at Man United, been in League One with Sunderland, then getting a transfer to Middlesbrough. He's an international. He's played alongside Stuart Dallas. I think the squad is threadbare. If there's talk of centre backs leaving, we have no midfielders. He can deputise in both positions. I don't mind it. I get it's not flashy. I get it's not Gus Hamer. But, these names, it almost feels similarly to when we were talking about the cream of the crop of the Championship and we seen Ollie Watkins go to Villa and we seen Ben Rama go to West Ham. And then, we've come down. There was talk of Gyökeres, obviously. I don't think that was ever a goer. But we're linked to Pirro, we're linked to Gus Hamer, we're linked to Manning. I've got a feeling we're not going to get any of them. They all look destined for the Prem. So I think it's sometimes people want the world, and I think sometimes they're good players to bring in to steady the ship. I know they're not exciting names, but steady the ship almost feels like the bloody right term as well at the minute, doesn't it? Because it looks a bit all over the shop. But yeah, midfield's so light, Joe, and if the defense is so light, so he can help out in both positions. I mean, everywhere's so light, bar wingers.
Yeah. Everywhere's so light. Ellen Road's about to just float away.
Yeah. I mean, the goal kit, everywhere. There is not a position that doesn't need surgery except wing.
Yeah. Lucky, how you feel about those two that have been mentioned?
Nubel, I'd really like. I know someone who works in Germany, and he said when he first went to, he's been there 2 years at Monaco now, and the first season he went, he struggled with confidence. He was in the shadow of Neuer. There was always that reputation there that he would be the next thing when Neuer retires, but Neuer stayed on a little longer, so he had to go on loan, and he really struggled with that. And he said it himself, he struggled with confidence, but he got over that. Really good shot stopper, really good technical goalkeeper who can catch a lot of things, kind of that German style goalkeeper. But yeah, he'd be really good, but I've been told he's too good for the Championship and there's no chance. McNair, I've heard his name around. He's a decent player and he's nothing like nothing to shout about. Good squad player, probably one you need in there as well. Type player we need in there as a squad player. But yeah, they're just names at this point, aren't they?
I'm surprised we've not been linked with more German players, to be honest. That's what he did, not at Farke when he went in at Norwich, isn't it? He brought in some decent German players to sort of fill out the squad, a bit like what Chilino did with all the Serie B rejects, but properly and with decent players.
We did get Berardi and Alioski out of that, so
yeah.
But I think them links will come.
You throw enough crap at the wall, though, some will stick.
Yeah. Do we believe that the names that we are hearing? So again, Joe, back to you for this one, because seeing as nothing else has come out of the club, like we didn't hear anything about Nick Hammond until it was announced. There's been drip feeding of information. Again, going back to what Lockie said about Graham Smith talking about, we're being asked not to say things and stuff like that when we've talked to the club. Do you think this could just be a case of the names that have been flown are not the players that Leeds are interested in? We've seen Leeds do that last year before. Rads loved flying kites and seeing what the reaction would be before he made the decision. And that there's a stack of other players just lined up that we haven't heard names of, just haven't been released.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think the ITK journos know, in all honesty. I don't mean to dig anybody out, but I don't think anyone's got a Scooby-Doo. The names that Phil here mentioned right at the start, Nat Phillips, Manning, Darlow, Hamer, and I forget, maybe Sam Surridge. There's been nothing on him since. The only one that's got legs or has done, is Manning. He went to Southampton. I think Phillips probably is a goer, but because Feyenoord were apparently linked and he's not gone there, and Liverpool want to sell. So I think that could be a goer. And maybe if like others believe, and if it is true, the EFL ratification's holding it up, then Nat Phillips could be one of them that could potentially come first through the door. We need a goalkeeper. I think it's so easy to get Darlow, but the fact that we're chasing Newbell, if reports are true, then they're not sold on Darlow.
The thing
So
is, sorry, Joe, just before you go on it, you worry about goalkeepers, and I think Joel Robles, I said this before he was released. I think he would be up there with the best goalkeepers in the Championship, and I don't know why we don't re-sign him.
Nah,
he's a steady pair of hands in the Championship level, but you're going to have to buy a goalkeeper down when you go into the Premier League, or if you go into the Premier League. It's not a long-term event. It is very much a look.
Bro, there's so many better goalkeepers than Joel Robles in the Championship. Hence why we're linked. Woodman, Angus Gunn. There's loads of goalkeepers that we're linked to. I don't think he's great with his feet, and I think that's very important as well to play in a Farker side. I think when you actually look at Darlow on the data behind it, he had quite a lot of passes and shot. You know what I mean? And I think it was a similar sort of build up to when Liam Rossini came in at Hull. I believe anyway. I might be wrong, but yeah, I was never sold on Robles anyway. Fair
enough.
I think it was so bad under Melier that when he came in, it looked half decent, a bit like Voba. I think we all got massively gassed. I actually don't think Voba's that good. If I'm being totally honest, I think his ball distribution is terrible. He can't pass a ball.
I think that's to do with the system and how bad we were under Jesse Marsh as well.
I disagree, but that's fine.
Hopefully he stays and we see.
Yeah.
But I think he would be one of the best centre backs in the Championship.
100%.
I really do. But
100%. Yeah,
I do think his passing would be massively improved with a bit of calmness, with a bit of a possession team who's going to hold the ball most of the time.
Options. Here's a take for you.
Yeah.
Cooper's a better passer than Voba, and that's saying something.
Well, I don't necessarily.
That's my opinion. I like it. I mean, you know what I mean?
That's absolutely cool, mate. What I would say is there were games last season that were mistakes made where it was distribution out from the back into the midfield that the ball was lost and then we were counted on immediately. High presses caught us an awful lot, but I think an awful lot that wasn't necessarily out of the passing ability from the players at the back. I think it was down to the lack of options in front of them. Players ran away from the ball. I mean, there was one criticism of, I don't know if it was Sam Greenwood made a mistake and it was a goal conceded by it, and the question mark was, what was he doing there in the first place? Why wasn't that Adams picking the ball up? And Adams had ran away from the ball about 20 yards forward, and everyone just went away from the defenders and left them on their own. And the only player that made himself available was Greenwood. And when the ball was fizzed into him, he was marked and lost possession. So I think it's a structured system because there wasn't one under Allardyce. We didn't have a structured system under Allardyce. You could argue that Garcia was trying to sellotape over gaps and fix things, and it didn't work temporarily, but not long term. And then Jesse's system was just, frantic and manic, and whatever happens. But we'll celebrate that moment. And that was the problem. But I think a lot of the defensive issues, because these players didn't seem to have an issue passing out from the back under Bielsa. They were fine. Vober wasn't under Bielsa, but came in with a record of being a decent passer of a ball. But again, I think it's if you look at the common denominator across the entire back four, they didn't all become bad passers overnight. Something else was going on. And I think it's
every single player Jesse Marsh signed off on cannot pass a bloody ball.
Most of them have left as well. Most of them are gone.
Tyler Adams is another. I love him, but he can't pass the ball.
But that's why you need a passer next to him. If you're going to play 4-2-3-1, you need somebody who can.
And that's the argument
next to him.
Yeah, that's the argument.
Do you know the best passer, the central defender that's best passer at the club is Chris Moore.
There you go.
And that's he was excellent passing it forward in that game. Man United really good.
Yeah, Jeremiah Mullen was decent as well. But made one mistake, but he was pretty decent. It's I think a lot of it's down to system. I really do think an awful lot of it's down to system, because I think we've seen.
I hate them all, man. I'm angry.
I know you are. But like it's like you go back to the better times under Bielsa, and like we were blessed to have a player like Calvin Phillips who could break up play and knock a 60-yard ball straight to somebody's feet. We were blessed for a long time to have that ability. But Cooper was known for doing it as well. Cooper was known for picking up the ball and putting a 50-yard diag across the park onto somebody's toe. And then all of a sudden last year, he couldn't do it anymore. And again, I don't think that happens overnight because you become a bad footballer overnight. I think it becomes because you're not 100% sure what you're going to be doing, or other players don't know where they're supposed to be when you get the ball, and then it breaks down. So if you've got people as tactical as Farke and as Bielsa, if one person doesn't do their job, and we saw that with the man-marking system, as soon as one player gets beaten in the man-marking system, the whole thing collapses like a house of cards because someone else has to step on to intercept the ball, and then the whole thing breaks down. So if the players don't have any of that kind of structure and don't understand where they're all supposed to be, then it's Sunday League football. It's hitting hope and fingers crossed somebody's in the area that put it into. And more often than not, you're playing against teams that are structured and you lose out every time. So that's my take on it. I don't know if teaching guys. I don't know if you guys.
I was just going to say that Farke's system relies on playing out from the back, and when he does, he wants one of his holding midfielders, if not both, to come and show for the ball to say, I am available to take it. And if they're not, you saw under Bielsa that Ben White would take the ball into midfield, didn't you? He would just go on a run because that's bypassing that press. And that's what he'll also want our players to be able to do. I think Nat Phillips is quite good at doing that. And that's probably why he's been identified, that he can carry that ball out from the back. I think
Max, there's such a misconception on Phillips that he can't play.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I think
because he can head the ball, people think
because he can head the ball that he's rubbish, but he can actually play, man.
Yeah, he can. I've seen a lot of clips of him wriggling out of tight spaces, beating a man, and just playing a nice pass into a midfielder. And you're like, okay, well, that's what you need—a bit of calmness on the ball. But yeah, like I say, we'll have. Hopefully, if we can sign any midfielders, they'll drop deep into those spaces and show for the ball. Whereas before, as soon as we passed the ball out under Jesse Marsh, he was like, go. And everybody basically ran away from our centre-backs. And our centre-backs were going, who are we going to pass to now? And they just have to lump it. But hopefully now, like Jer says, in a system like Farke's, everybody is supposed to know where they need to be when the ball is in a certain place. So if the left centre-back has it, everybody in the pitch, all the other people know where to stand, know where to be to receive the ball, and that makes the person with the ball's job so much easier. And I think you'll see a complete uptick in the way that the pass completion rates of our defenders, the way that we actually keep the ball, the loss of possession should go down. Hopefully that makes a big difference. But yeah, I do agree though about some of our players have completely gone off the boil, and I think it's partially Marsh, Gracia, and Allardyce, but it's also to do with the fact that they just haven't played well at all anyway.
Yeah,
a lot of them are 4 years older than they were the last time we were in this position as well, and they're on the 30s, so that's a factor as well. The other thing I'd say is go back and watch Leeds under Bielsa and watch how often players pass the ball without looking into an area, and then usually there's a player running into that area.
Farke's Norwich as well.
Exactly the same. You look at that under Marsh and you look at it under Allardyce and under Gracia. That wasn't happening.
Reactionary, wasn't it?
Correct. It was always the ball. Right, okay, let's go get it, and then get it and hope it goes to somebody else. It's panic. Yeah, that was the issue. Jesse Marsh's system was supposed to create panic in the opposition, but it didn't. It created panic in our team, and that was when it all broke down. Really. It's okay. It's an interesting one. We have to keep an eye. I keep saying this all week. Oh, it's interesting. We got to keep an eye on this. Like something has to happen. It has to happen next week. I keep saying it, but it has to happen next week, or else you're 2 weeks away from the start of the season. You got to move. The move away from this, we talk about this till the cows come home. We move away from it slightly, and I just wanted to have a very quick chat because I know Joe's doing more on this tomorrow, and I don't want to step into Joe's lane. So, Pablo Hernandez retired today from playing football, and I think we can all say from a I was going to say objective perspective, but let's not be objective for a second. I think we can all say it's probably one of the best players there, put a Leeds shirt on and gave us some of the best memories we've ever had of watching a player in a Leeds United shirt, and fundamental to Leeds getting promoted and a turnaround. Even when Monk brought him in, for those who don't like Gary Monk, that's the one thing I think we can thank him for, is bringing in the player that he was friends with in Hernandez, and the difference that he made to Leeds United from the second he came in the door till we got to the Premier League. Just a gutting shame we didn't see an awful lot more of him in the Premier League for longer. So, Lockie, your thoughts on Hernandez's return?
I love him. Yeah, I love Pablo. He's probably the football that's made me cry the most in happy ways. Honestly, it's some of the goals he'd score. I remember Bristol City first game of the season, left foot, top corner. Wow. Yeah, and he's a good example of a player who had an all right career, and he was all right at Leeds before Bielsa came in. He was a bit inconsistent, wasn't it? Like he didn't play every
one of the better players we had, though, but wasn't setting the world on fire. But he was still better when we had.
And then when Bielsa came in, he was a totally different breed, and that's with him, a player like that, and you just watch him and you just think he's different. It's too easy for him. The championship was too easy for him, and we need more of them.
Yeah.
We need some more of them, and maybe we'll get them in the championship. That's where you find these type of players, these little gems. Yeah, what a legend, honestly.
Max, your thoughts on him?
Oh, well, it's just his nickname was so apt, the Magician. He was just so good, and even in the Premier League, we didn't have a player like that. We had Rafinha coming off the right, and he was similar in some ways and different in a lot of others. But Pablo, we still haven't replaced him. That's how good he was. However many years ago since we were in the Championship with him, 4 or 5 now, we still haven't replaced him with anybody who can do anything like what he could do with the ball. He had the passing, the positional awareness, the drifting around, just playing in a sort of, he almost had a free role really, because he was able to drift out to the right, drift back into the middle, and nutmeg. They could nutmeg a mermaid. Is that what they say? He was just so good. And we haven't replaced him. And before we just started this, I was actually working on a thumbnail for a video I'm going to do about trying to find a number 10 to play in that role that Daniel Farke wants, and basically I'd probably compare him a little bit to Pablo, because we finally need to find somebody for that, but it's going to be hard because he was so good.
Number 10s of his quality are not long. I think that we replaced Gary McAllister with Pablo Hernandez. I think between the two of them, there wasn't really an out-and-out number 10 at that skill level who could find those passes. That they just always been good players in there from the Premier League years, but not like that. Joe, you said a couple of things about Lewis Bate that made me think about Pablo Hernandez in terms of the scanning and the turning and to find those little gaps. What are your thoughts on Pablo passing? Not passing that way. Jesus,
passing,
no,
wow!
Don't say his career ending.
You will have me in tears if you're telling me his pasture.
No, he's not. He's great. He's a happy man. He's fine.
Amazing. I think arguably one of the best players to ever play in the Championship, for sure. And
no, Forshaw wasn't that good.
I think really it's mad that we even got him. And we even had him really for as long as we did. Obviously, I think he was at Swansea. He won a trophy at Swansea, which isn't something that happens very often at clubs like that. And then I think we get him from was it Qatar or Saudi Arabia? One of them, wasn't it?
He left Swansea, went to Qatar, and then came
right.
back.
Okay,
At the peak of his career, he went there.
Yeah. So it's a bit mad, really, that we managed to get him. I think anyway. And just to think, the season that we went up, it was clear he was maybe getting on, and the games were not passing him by, but he couldn't give us 90 minutes. I think the way that Bielsa managed him, he just used to bring him on in every game in the second half. He was like a super sub, and he'd just come on and just do something amazing, and we'd be like, oh my God, that's game one. Do you know what I mean? I think he was managed perfectly, and he'll always be West Brom. West Brom, when we scored in that, he's involved there, and obviously Swansea. Swansea will never forget that moment. I did a watch along, and I never forget. He scored. I can't believe it. So I think we'll all have our memories of that goal.
He couldn't put that in any other position in the net and it go in.
No.
It's the only place that he could have put it.
On the turn. And with no backlift, he managed to.
And I like what you said, Joe, about bringing on to the sub. I used to go all the time. We'd be doing a bit bad. Well, Pablo's not on yet. We've still got Pablo to come on, okay. And then he'd come on,
secret weapon.
Yeah, he'd make someone do a 30-yard ball, and then we'd score from it. Yeah, unbelievable.
And the goal against West Brom as well. That was a Friday night game. I think Cooper goes out wide. I don't know if it's Cooper wins a header. It gets popped out to Click, maybe. Ball comes back across and then
sticks it.
Bang. He was just an unbelievable footballer, an unbelievable player. And I think he'll go down as probably the best, you could argue the best player in that Bielsa team, I think. There is characters. We love Clicky. We love Ayling for what he did. But when we look back, Pablo will be the star, I think, for me.
You put them into the bracket of modern legends.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And a lovely man as well. A lovely man, no ego or anything like that. Just a lovely man.
Just got on with things, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's we're getting close to wrapping up, so I'll leave it on this. There's that old saying of "Don't be sad that it's over, be happy that it happened." So we got to experience Pablo Hernandez.
Bring him back as a coach, man. Imagine. That'd be amazing.
See him
If the 49ers announce that tomorrow, all this worry about I'd be chilled for a week. It'd give me a week. I'd be like, fair enough.
All I'm going to say is there's a guy in Qatar right now, or Saudi Arabia, I can't remember, called Pereira, who used to play for West Brom.
Yeah.
Yes, true.
It's also James Rodriguez is a free agent.
Not so much.
By the way, just before we sign off, we talk about that championship team that won the league. Click was so good in that and so influential, as you mentioned him. People were saying, obviously, he's gone out to the MLS and he's completely just ripping up the league,
making a show of everybody over there. He's killing.
Yeah, and people are saying, "Oh no, he's obviously it's not good enough to." The MLS is a completely different league. He wouldn't have been good enough in the Premier League. In the Championship, though, if we'd have kept hold of Click, I think he, under Daniel Farke, would have been a real asset to have in that midfield.
I'm going to trigger the comments, Max.
Yeah.
No, he will.
I agree.
He will return. He will return on loan. You know, he said he wants that 200 appearances, and he said that I will be back to make sure I get them 200 appearances. He will. You know, the MLS season, I remember Landon Donovan always moving on loan to Everton. There's a period where they can move on loan. Why not just bring why not bring Lewis O'Brien and Matthias Click and just put them in the centre of our championship?
Well, I think Lewis O'Brien is a player you could actually go and buy. I think Lewis O'Brien from Forest just nick him when their season's over. But I think I hold Click to his word because he's a man of his word. When he left to go to Utrecht, he said, what was his last thing he said? I'll be back. And he came back, and you look at the difference he made. So I would love to see Matthias Click back. I think he'd suit his system perfectly. I feel sorry for Javi Gracia because I think Click would have been a big player under Gracia as well. So and he would have got a lot of him, but it is what it is. Folks, thanks very much as always for joining me. Massive thanks to Lockie, Joe, and Max. I've linked their channels down in the description as well, so go give them a follow, give them a subscribe, go watch their content. If you want your tactical breakdowns, there are no two better people than these two lads up here and down here for doing that. Both excellent at what they do. And if you want daily content from the hardest working man in Leeds United YouTube, he's right down there below. You can get on Twitch as well.
What's he gonna say about me when he's talking about these being tactics?
Well, I didn't introduce you as my dad, Joe, did I?
Brilliant, thank you, mate.
Yeah, Joe's launched a Twitch channel as well, so you can find Joe over on Twitch as well. So go give these guys a bit of love as well and go and support them. Massively deserved, and I keep saying it. As far as I'm concerned, Leeds United content creators, possibly the best around anywhere. So go check them out. And I will be back on Monday morning for Leeds United news, and we'll have this podcast, episode 3, on next Saturday. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.